Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Vaibhav Jyotsna Shrivastava, and with me is VC Pramod, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. U.S. Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken to arrive in Delhi tomorrow on a two-day visit to India. 22nd anniversary of Kargil Vijay Diwas celebrated across India on Monday. President Ramnath Kovind pays homage to indomitable courage and valor of Indian Armed Forces. Over 44 crore doses of COVID-19 vaccine administered in India so far. National recovery rate stands at 97.35%. And in Tokyo Olympics, India's Achant Sharath Kamal qualifies for third round in table tennis men's singles event. Germany beats India 2-0 in women's hockey match. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is underway, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and also to help others to get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. U.S. Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken will arrive in Delhi on Tuesday on a two-day visit to India. External Affairs Ministry said this is Secretary Blinken's first visit to India after assuming charge as U.S. Secretary of State. On the 28th of July, he will meet the External Affairs Minister and the National Security Advisor. Secretary Blinken's visit is an opportunity to continue the high-level bilateral dialogue and bolster the India-U.S. global strategic partnership. Both sides will review the robust and multifaceted India-U.S. bilateral relations and potential for consolidating them further. External Affairs Ministry said discussions will focus on regional and global issues of mutual interest, including recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, the Indo-Pacific region, Afghanistan, and cooperation in the United Nations. The 22nd anniversary of Kargil Vijay Diwas was celebrated across the country on Monday. The nation is remembering its war heroes and paying tributes to martyrs on the Kargil Vijay Diwas. The day marks the victory of Indian Armed Forces in Operation Vijay in 1999 when they evicted the infiltrators backed by the Pakistani army from high outposts in Kargil sector. President Ramnath Kovind today laid a wreath at the Dagger War Memorial in Baramulla in Jammu and Kashmir to pay tributes to all soldiers who sacrificed their lives in defending the nation on the occasion of the Kargil Vijay Diwas. In his message in the visitor's book at the memorial, Mr. Kovind said, "The nation salutes the soldiers and officers of 19th Infantry Division who have been safeguarding the borders in the most hostile terrains under adverse weather conditions as the frontline troops." Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu saluted the heroes of the Kargil War and paid homage to the martyrs for their supreme sacrifice. In a tweet, Mr. Naidu said he joined the nation in remembering the Indian Armed Forces saga of valor and gallantry. Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid homage to all those who lost their lives in Kargil protecting our nation. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said that bravery motivates people every single day. The Prime Minister also shared an excerpt from last year's Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio. He said India can never forget the circumstances under which the Kargil War was fought.
पाकिस्तान द्वारा पीठ में छुरा घोंपने की कोशिश हुई थी, लेकिन उसके बाद भारत की वीर सेना ने जो पराक्रम दिखाया, भारत ने अपनी जो ताकत दिखाई, उसे पूरी दुनिया ने देखा। आप कल्पना कर सकते हैं, ऊंचे पहाड़ों पर बैठा हुआ दुश्मन और नीचे से लड़ रही हमारी सेनाएं, हमारे वीर जवान, लेकिन जीत पहाड़ की ऊंचाई की नहीं, भारत की सेनाओं के ऊंचे हौसले और सच्ची वीरता की हुई। साथियों, उस समय मुझे भी करगिल जाने और हमारे जवानों की वीरता के दर्शन का सौभाग्य मिला। वो दिन मेरे जीवन के सबसे अनमोल क्षणों में से एक है।
Defense Minister Rajnath Singh paid tributes to the fallen soldiers who fought valiantly during the Kargil War at the National War Memorial in New Delhi this morning. In his video message, Mr. Singh said the victory achieved by the Indian Army in Kargil, in spite of difficult and unfavorable conditions, is uncomparable.
कारगिल युद्ध के महान शूरवीरों ने भारत की रक्षा का स्वर्णिम अध्याय अपने शौर्य, पराक्रम और बलिदान से लिखा है। कठिन और प्रतिकूल परिस्थितियों के बावजूद भारतीय सेना ने कारगिल में जो विजय प्राप्त की वह अपने आप में अतुलनीय है। मैं कारगिल युद्ध में वीर गति प्राप्त करने वाले सभी वीर सैनिकों के परिवारों को फिर से यह भरोसा देना चाहता हूं, यह देश उनके बलिदान को, उनकी स्मृति को कभी नहीं भूल सकता। दिल्ली में राष्ट्रीय युद्ध स्मारक हमारी इस प्रतिबद्धता का प्रतीक है। अमर चक्र पर जल रही अमर ज्योत भारतीय सेना के पराक्रम और बलिदान की अग्नि साक्षी है।
Minister of State for Defence Ajay Bhatt, Army Chief General Manoj Mukund Naravane, Air Force Chief Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadauria, Navy Vice Chief Vice Admiral G. Ashok Kumar also paid tributes at the National War Memorial.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on Kargil Vijay Divas, the story of India's brave hearts. In conversation are Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma and Ajay Banerjee, journalist.
We are discussing the Kargil conflict of 1999. Today it is 22 years to Vijay Divas as we call it. Today was the day when victory over Pakistan was claimed in the icy heights of Kargil, Dras, Mashko and Batalik. General Sharma, how do you see it in 22 years? Has war fighting changed or evolved in the mountains? In reference to the, we call it Kargil conflict, otherwise the listeners must be made aware that this was spread across 180-190 kilometers in front of Pakistan, Gilgit-Baltistan.
Ajay, the fact is that was a different era altogether. So we had just done the nuclear blast in 98 and this happened in 99. And the situation was different. We were those days vacating those heights in the Kargil sector in the entire area in winters, both of us, Pakistan and us. And there was a kind of bonhomie which was coming up across with Pakistan. There was a bus travel that happened to Lahore, and the general impression was things were looking up. And that's the time when, while all this looking up was around, the surreptitious action happened. We were, as you recollect, only one brigade used to look after the entire Kargil sector. There were 4 battalions of ours and a battalion of the Border Security Force, and that also winter months were not around. So there was a different paradigm altogether, and it caused the sudden arrival, and for like maybe 10-15 days till the time we actually joined contest, we had no idea that the areas occupied by the intruders were who were Mujahideen, were the regulars, and what all posts and how much of area. It's only after the area was joined from Dras on one side to Batalik on the other side, then we came to know the entire extent of it. It was a wakening up call for us in that this was a great offensive action taken, and of course it denied us the use of Zojila-Leh Road, which is in the month of May. It is a lifeline because the Rohtang Road is not open at that time. So we called back, kind of a coup de main carried out by the Pakis in this area, and it jolted us. And of course, you know, these talks of Stoke Talbot and Jaswant Singh were on, and there were sanctions spoken about against India. So India was also getting out of these geopolitical issues with large number of governments all over the world convincing about a nuclear policy, a nuclear doctrine. A nuclear doctrine was being written those days, and it was all sorts. So there was a kind of a quagmire which was around. And Pakistan took full advantage of that issue of that time and made this great tactical move, not a great strategic move, by denying us this road and occupying those heights, which actually we were vacating and occupying. So this was the broad environment in 1999.
General Sharma, I'll take you to the actual battles now. They were at very high heights. We may not be well equipped in these times to have a mountainous warfare. By well equipped, I mean the numbers. We needed great number of troops up there in the mountains. How well prepared we were in terms of ammunition? Because I remember reading one place that one of the generals said that we will fight the best with what we have. And let me take you back to the battles. How glorious was the fight of the sacrifice the young boys and officers made out there in Kargil, Dras or Mashko in fighting or evicting these intruders?
If we draw our experience of those days back, The first units which were actually involved in that combat were maybe kind of returning back from the glacier duty and were on de-induction mode back down to plains, the advanced parties having moved away, weapons having handed over back into the glacier or in eastern Ladakh. So there was in preparation here. We didn't have reserve formations of any kind. The infantry formation like 8th Mountain Division, which is now looking after Kargil, was actually still embroiled in counterinsurgency operations in the valley floor. So, in fact, I can draw a parallel to Galwan also, and of course, maybe out of place here, but if you draw a parallel, we were similarly devoid of reserves, even 2020 in eastern Ladakh. But when we go back to that era, they having moved 8th Div, which came then, there was immense amount of valor shown by 3 Infantry Division, which was the lay people. They fought like, traversed down to those heights, Tiger Hill and all those peaks. Subsequently, when you stand on Tiger Hill, you say, how the hell these people climbed up from the Dras space floor, the second coldest place in the world, and came up to this height of Tiger Hill and captured with the Pakistan forces having occupied such centers. So, it's hats off to the valor of our people. Now, talking about ammunition and things, see, there was a paucity of many things here. There was a great paucity of artillery. One division, firstly 15 Corps, which is, as you're aware, Srinagar-based Corps, were looking after from Ramban right up to Chumar. Entire eastern Ladakh was looked after by just one Corps. And that Corps was also fighting the toughest of issues across on the valley floor. So there were an infiltration around, so there was also problem across on Pit Panjal and Sabari. So there was severe paucity. Now the hats off is to the kind of mobilization we did, which also draws parallel to 2020 when we did similar mobilization. But we brought people, we brought artillery, we learned how to fire artillery in direct firing role and blasted those spaces out before the infantry could actually come and assault. So they may have been a little positive, but I think we responded. That's the greatest part of the armed forces is that when they push to the wall, then they can tend to respond, and the valor and courage and josh and vigor, there is just no doubt. 527 martyrs in just 2 months, 1,100 odd injured. It was a pitched battle of any kind that we know of.
Jalal Sharma, how things changed after Kargil? Now, as we know, there is a core up there and there are TIV, which is well equipped, well armed, especially in light of the Eastern Ladakh imbroglio, and also the Kargil-Dras axis. How well entrenched or how well equipped today we are, and how many are we holding that wherewithal to push Pakistan back across the Gilgit-Baltistan in LOC in that section?
What happened post-Kargil was that we had the toughest of these 2 years, 2000 and 2001, in insurgency in both 15-16 Corps zones, which is in the Jammu area and Srinagar area. So over 2,000 terrorists killed. So the Pakis also, while doing Kargil, also planned to ratchet up the insurgency in these areas and make life tough. So when we moved 8th Mountain Division from the valley floor and additional troops which came into Kargil sector, the valley floor became devoid. So first change that happened is that 14 Corps was raised and 15 Corps was finished at Zojila Pass, and there was a new Corps handling it. But firstly, Srinagar areas and the areas of the valley floor had to be taken care of. So 2 more Rashtriya Rifle forces were created in this period of 2000-2001. Second is that we were vacating those posts. Now we got prepared. So we moved. We moved in a manner that we created the infrastructure of a kind that, we were able to sustain the forces if they do not vacate, because the trust deficit became total. And having seen what the Pakistanis did in an infiltration in 2001, 2003, 2004. So the line of control in Kargil sector, which were not similarly handled as, say, Uri or Kupwara, started thereafter to be handled in a similar manner as Kupwara, Uri or Poonch or Hamirpur or Rajouri sector. So that was the first major transformation happening. So all these things are changing, and of course we can discuss the K. Subramaniam committee and the group of ministers which started working, and many things started moving. The intelligence setup in India was totally revamped. The whole NTRO came up and the NSCS came and the first NSA was appointed. So the transformation in India was total after the Kargil war.
You make a very valid point, sir. Now I bring you to one of the most contentious issues which is often discussed in think tanks and strategic circles. Sir, the political decision was taken in 1999 that we will not cross the LOC and hit at Pakistan. What would have happened had we crossed the LOC? What would have happened? If we did not cross LOC, what has happened we all know. What is the way out? Where do you see it now, of these 22 years later? What was the decision? How correct or incorrect was it? Can you explain to us, sir?
As I mentioned, 1998 was a nuclear blast thing, and it had its ramifications on sanctions against us and the United States and, all these IAEA, and the whole issue was hot. So, we were not able to make a decision of crossing LOC because thought was that it would problems. So if we had to get the Bofors guns, and so many guns or so many regiments were brought from planes. So I think the logic was that maybe an expansion of conflict across all along the western border was not the right time, because we were fighting a tough battle with large number of troops, large number of formations, and sustaining them. So the thought process of not crossing the line of control was decided at that time. If you ask me, the war could have been much shorter in case we had crossed the line of control and cut off the lines of communication. Pakistanis in those years did not have these strong lines of communication starting from Gilgit and coming up to these features and right up to Skardu and going down further towards the glacier and Ganjia districts of there. So now, of course, the lines of communication have improved dramatically after the Chinese have come in Gilgit, Baltistan in a big way. But those days if we had gone across and cut off their logistics chain, we could have starved them in that place itself, and the war may have been of different kind. And if we had done that, it would have been fair thought. I think in retrospective, after having done Balakot and the surgical strikes in 2016, 2018, 19, I think, to expect Pakistanis to open up the range sector is not easy. They don't have the strength to do so. And we should have, in retrospective, one can say that, we should have crossed over and hit them where it hurt hard. But the decision of history, but the fact of the matter is that those decisions were valid in those days. Those decisions, if I have to take today or somebody has to take today, may not be valid, and it may be logical to employ the forces in a manner to cut off the area, shape the battlefield to the best of your advantage. But like I said, those restrictions, those years were valid by the decision makers in those days.
Sir, how do you think the friendship of US with Pakistan in those times stopped our decision or helped us make our decision?
See, those years, they were one army with the United States and Pakistan for quite some time, especially till the time Soviet Union broke apart and, became Russia. In the 90s, the first tenure of President Clinton, of course, there was Rafael, who was the ambassador in the United States, and, husband had been killed in an aircraft with Jan Zia. So there was a little bonhoming continuing. But I think by the time to say that same relationship stood between President Clinton's second term and Pakistan may not be true. I think by the second term it came and President Clinton had changed his opinions about India. So many rounds of Stoke Talbot and Jaswant Singh talks which happened, which also opened up conversation between two countries. And the world started recognizing that, look, in the most difficult of terrain, no wars have been fought at that altitude in this kind. The Indians have done a fantastic job. By June end, after Tiger Hill had fallen, the world was noticing, that this is different force altogether. So I thought that the Riot Act, and on 4th of July, which is a holiday in the United States, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif landed up there, and he was strongly arm-twisted, and despite the military all in control, Musharraf, but the chief, they still had to bow down and said, okay, enough is enough. And I think we showed strength by the nuclear blast. We showed strength in this war here. We showed strength. We had the resilience to accept a challenge and get on with it. So the globe was changing. By 2000, the world was changing, and I think they were noticing India in a different light.
Jalal Sharma, I will also like to bring you on to the aspect of the families who have lost their dear ones in this. People have lost their sons, their husbands, their fathers into it. There are young girls and young boys who have been born when their fathers were no more. They were in their mother's womb when the war took place. What is the message for them, sir?
This was the first live war that we saw, and it was telecast directly. Most of us, we saw the valor. We saw people who were speaking on the television, who lost their life, became martyrs in 2 days. And I'm from 11 Gurkha Rifles. My regiment, first 11 GR fought so bravely in Batalic sector. Captain Manoj Pandey called the PBC. We know their parents so well. The nation suffered along with his 527 people who lost their lives. And it's not here alone. There were duels going on across on the line of control in Jammu sector and also in Srinagar sector. There were also problems happening on the other side. So, people losing lives the other side also. So the nation saw the grief of these people. In younger days in 1965, one used to hear on radio as what's happening on wars. In 71, fun. So this was a live telecast war, and the pain and anguish. And over the last 20 years, we have regularly interacted with the families of the martyrs, met them often. We see how they have got their lives together again after having lost their kith and kin, and all those who were grievously wounded. It's hats off to the units who fought that war in those areas where even now, if you go in winter months, it's very difficult to stand there. It's so difficult there, and these people actually climbed up those ridges and unmindful of their own welfare. And somebody said, Dil mange more. Because those words are written for history, for posterity, for lives to come, And I think we can't repay back the valor of our people who gave supreme sacrifice in those heights. And for generations altogether, their saga will be written in gold.
General Sharma has summed up the 22nd anniversary of the Kargil Vijay Divas very aptly. India fought a very bloody war with Pakistan in the icy heights of Kargil, Dras and Mashko, and evicted the Pakistani intruders. This was, as he rightly put it, was a surprise to us. The Indian Army responded very well and wrote a chapter in glorious history. Thank you for speaking to us, General Sharma.
Thank you, Ajay.
This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
Welcome back. You are listening to the World News. India has administered over 44 crore doses of COVID-19 vaccine so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. The Indian Health Ministry said 35,968 patients recovered during the last 24 hours, and the COVID recovery rate now stands at 97.35%. Till now, more than 3 crore 5 lakh people have recovered from the COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic continued to surge in Bangladesh, with the highest number of deaths and new infections being reported in a single day on Monday. According to the latest bulletin of the Directorate General of Health Services, 247 people died and 15,192 new cases of coronavirus infections were reported in the country today. This is the highest number of deaths in a day since the 19th of July, when 231 deaths were reported. The government of Bangladesh had announced that all factories will remain closed during the strict lockdown from the 23rd of July to the 5th of August.
U.S. President Joe Biden will host Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi today at the White House over the future of U.S. troops in Iraq. Today's meeting also comes amid continued attacks against U.S. military positions in Iraq that the United States blames on Iran-linked militias. A drone attack last Saturday hit a military base in Iraqi Kurdistan that hosts American troops. Tunisia's president has sacked the prime minister and suspended parliament after violent mass protests nationwide yesterday. Anger over the government's handling of a massive recent spike in COVID cases has added to general unrest over the nation's economic and social turmoil. President Kais Saied, who was elected in 2019, announced he was taking over. His supporters erupted in celebration, but opponents in parliament immediately accused him of staging a coup. The Sensex and the Nifty today witnessed modest losses amid negative global cues. Oil prices fell amid concerns about fuel demand. A report from the Business World.
The BSE Sensex fell 124 points or 0.23% to trade at 52,852. The NSE Nifty also slipped 32 points or 0.2% to trade at 15,824. In global equity markets, Asian shares plunged to 7-month lows. Hong Kong's Hang Seng plunged 4.1% and China's Shanghai Composite declined 2.3%. South Korea's Kospi fell 0.9% and Singapore's Straits Times slipped 0.6%. However, Japan's Nikkei 225 gained 1%. European stocks were also down in intraday trade. Oil prices fell amid concerns about fuel demand due to the spread of COVID-19 variants in various regions. Brent crude prices were trading around $73.90 per barrel. Back home, gold prices rose 120 rupees at multi-commodity exchange for August contracts, in sync with gains in gold prices in global markets. Gold was trading at 47,650 rupees per 10 gram. Silver prices also gained around 450 rupees to trade at 67,480 rupees per kilogram for September contracts when reports last came in. And the rupee weakened marginally by 1 paisa to close at 74 rupees and 42 paisa against the US dollar. Anubha Rohatgi for World News, All India Radio.
Olympic silver medalist Saikom Mirabai Chanu returned to Delhi from Tokyo this afternoon. In a tweet, she said she is happy to be back in India amidst so much love and support.
पूरा दिल से मेहनत किया, इतना हार्ड वर्क किया था। ये 5 साल हमने पूरा सैक्रिफाइस करके हमने ये टोक्यो ओलंपिक में एक मेडल लेने के लिए हमने बहुत ही मेहनत की। मैं थोड़ा सा नर्वस थी और प्रेशर भी थी कि पूरा भारतवासी को मेरे ऊपर होप रखी थी, उन्होंने मीराबाई मेडल लेके आएगी, तो उस सब कुछ चीजों को लेके मुझे थोड़ा सा टेंशन भी होता, पर मैंने पूरा मन से मैंने कॉम्पिटिशन किया।
Mirabai Chanu made history by becoming the first Indian weightlifter to win a silver medal in the women's 49 kg category on day 1 of the Tokyo Olympics. Listeners from across the country are participating in the Olympic quiz with AIR News. Listeners have emailed us their replies in huge numbers. Dr. Rakesh Kumar Garg of Ludhiana in Punjab was the first to send the correct answer of the question of 25th July. Speaking to AIR News, Dr. Rakesh Kumar Garg expressed his happiness on winning the Olympic quiz and wished the Indian Olympic contingent the best for Tokyo Olympics.
Feeling very happy to win today's Olympic quiz. I am a regular listener of All India Radio. रेडियो में टीवी की तरह की जगह बैठना नहीं पड़ता और आप रेडियो सुनते सुनते और भी आप काम कर सकते हैं। बहुत अच्छे अच्छे प्रोग्राम्स आते हैं ऑल इंडिया रेडियो पर और उन्हीं में से एक स्पोर्ट्स कैन भी है। इट्स ए वेरी इंफॉर्मेटिव प्रोग्राम एंड आई विश ऑल प्लेयर्स टू विन मेडल्स एंड मेक द कंट्री प्राउड।
To participate in the Olympic quiz, tune into our program Sports Can at 7:20 p.m. every day.
In Tokyo Olympics, India women lost their second consecutive group match, going down 0-2 against the Germans this evening. The Indian men's hockey team will take on Spain in a Pool A match at 6:30 a.m. tomorrow. Indian paddler Achant Sharath Kamal progressed to the round 3 of the men's singles tables tennis after defeating Portugal's Thiago Apollina 2-0. Kamal will face defending champion Ma Long of China in round 3 in the men's singles tomorrow. In women's singles category, Monika Batra lost to Austria's Sofia Polkanova 4-0 in round 3 encounter today. In badminton men's doubles, India's Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty lost to world number 1 Indonesian pair of Marcus Fernaldi Gideon and Kevin Sanjaya Sukhamuljo 21-13, 21-12 in men's doubles this morning. The Indian pair will next take on the Great Britain's pair Ben Lane and Sean Vendy tomorrow morning in a Group A match. In archery, Indian men's team comprising Atanu Das, Praveen Jadhav and Tarandeep Rai lost to South Korea's Kim Ji-deok, Kim Woo-jin and O.H. Jinek 6-0 in the quarterfinals. In tennis men's singles second round encounter, Sumit Nagal lost to Daniel Medvedev of Russia 6-2, 6-1. In boxing, India's Ashish Kumar Chaudhary was knocked out in the round of 32 when he lost his bout against Erbik Touhita of People's Republic of China in the men's middleweight category. In women's 64 to 69 kilogram category, India's Lovlina Borgohain will contest with Nadine Apetz of Germany tomorrow.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian says Biden and Iraqi PM to announce end to U.S. military combat mission. Wall Street Journal reports Chinese officials blame U.S. for stalemate in high-level talks. Financial Times writes U.S. real yields hit record low on growth concerns. Globe and Mail writes Beijing urges U.S. to drop extradition case against Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou as officials meet in China. Washington Post says Tunisia's president fires prime minister, dismisses government and freezes parliament.
And now a quick look at the headlines once again. U.S. Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken to arrive in Delhi tomorrow on a 2-day visit to India. 22nd anniversary of Kargil Vijay Diwas celebrated across India on Monday. President Ramnath Kovind pays homage to indomitable courage and valor of Indian Armed Forces. Over 44 crore doses of COVID-19 vaccine administered in India so far. National recovery rate stands at 97.35%. And in Tokyo Olympics, India's Achant Sharath Kamal qualifies for third round in table tennis men's singles event. Germany beats India 2-0 in women's hockey match. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Belgium. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.